local or English language. So either way, you're going to have the answers from our side. Okay, we started recording and officially we can start right now. So thank you once again. Of course, welcome on our event Coffee With. It is our great pleasure and honor to have today with us Ambassador of Sweden in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Excellency Johanna Stromquist. Thank you so much, Ambassador, for being with us today. It is a great honor of having you here with us on board. Please feel free to take the floor right now in the beginning of our event.
Thank you. Thank you very much for organizing this Coffee With. I'm very happy to be here with you today, and I'm looking forward to having a conversation with all of you about the EU integration process of Bosnia and Herzegovina. But first, let me start by saying a few words about who I am, and then I will get into the questions about why I think it would be good for Bosnia and Herzegovina to become a member of the EU and how that could happen. So my name is Johanna Stromquist, and I am the ambassador to Sweden since September last year. And I'm very happy and honored to be here. It's really an amazing job to have because the relations between our two countries are very strong, and this is also because of the fact that we have so many people in Sweden with roots in Bosnia and Herzegovina, so it makes it very, very special. So I'm happy to be here in your beautiful country. When I arrived here last year, I had not worked in Bosnia and Herzegovina before, but I had worked with the Western Balkans since 2001. And when I started working with this region, it was a really exciting time in terms of EU integration, because we had just had the Zagreb summit in 2000, so 20 years ago, when the EU had confirmed that the countries in the Western Balkans were potential candidate countries to the EU. And this is a very special terminology that I will get back to, that no other countries have ever had. Then, I mean, following this in 2003, we negotiated the Thessaloniki agenda, and that was also an extremely strong message to the region. And I had been working at the Foreign Ministry in Stockholm before that with enlargement of Central and Eastern Europe. So I was very glad to see that so many elements of the enlargement for Central and Eastern Europe so early on in the process, already in 2003, were actually used for the Western Balkans. So that was also a sign of this very strong commitment from the EU side and the will to have the Western Balkans as part of the European Union. And this was, I was very happy about this because I was a strong believer in the European Union. My own country joined in 1995, and together with Finland and Austria. And the enlargement of the EU then, when Sweden joined, for me, very much was about uniting Europe, about a peaceful, democratic and free Europe based on rule of law and human rights. So this, let's say the founding idea of the EU that started with the coal and steel union about bringing peace to Europe was still very much there, I think, because when we joined, there was also clear, let's say, a clear link to the fall of the Berlin Wall and the end of the Cold War. So it was very present still then, and as you probably know, I mean, the start of the EU with the coal and steel union was about binding together the production of coal and steel in Germany and France that was needed to make weapons, to really make it impossible to have new wars between those two countries. I mean, this is, I think, still something that we don't highlight enough, but also to me personally back then, I mean, the concrete benefits of the EU also became very obvious because in '93, I had been a student in Paris when we were not members of the EU, so I can only stay there for 3 months before applying for a visa. And this is something to young people today in Sweden, they take for granted, that they can be traveling to any country in the EU and study and live where they want. But I remember the time when, you know, I had to, after 3 months, go and apply for a visa at the police station. It was very difficult, and we all know this, everybody who has been trying to apply for visa for different countries. And so this, of course, was very clear to a young person that you immediately could travel and study where you wanted. So I went to Madrid to study and finished my studies with a master in EU integration, focusing on the European Union. And after I finished my studies, I went to Brussels for an internship. And when I had worked for a few years in the foreign ministry in Stockholm, I went on to work for the institutions, for the council secretariat in Brussels. So I really have the experience of having seen the EU as an outsider, as a student, as a diplomat, but also having worked for the institutions. And this has given me an enormous respect for the EU machinery, because it's something that, I mean, to see this giant machinery every day in Brussels, where the member state meet and negotiate all these details of different legislations, rules and regulations, and it's difficult, and sometimes it takes years, sometimes it takes 10 years to reach an agreement if it's something that's extremely important to certain member states. But we do compromise and we find solutions, and I think this is really the strength of the EU, that it's a machinery that goes on every day, and there are negotiations every day, and there are meetings every day when decisions are being made. And once these decisions are in place, and they become rules and regulations, they apply all over the union. So this gives the population and the companies predictability. And of course, this kind of predictability and stability creates prosperous economies, because this is exactly what is needed. I mean, this is something that we also forget. I think there's two extremes somehow. You know, the peace project, and also the nuts and bolts, really like the small details, are something that sometimes are forgotten when it comes to the EU. But I think this is the combination that makes the EU such a strong creation. And it also gives us an enormous advantage, of course, to be joining each other when we negotiate with what we call third countries outside the EU, for trade agreements, but also when it comes to foreign policy. And I mean, the kind of agreements when it comes to trade that we can achieve together would, of course, never be possible as single member states, and especially not for the smaller countries. So there's a lot of benefit in joining forces, and we are much stronger when we support each other, also with solidarity between the member states, which we see in different ways. Also economic transfers between different parts of the region. But of course, as I said before, the EU is not only this giant machinery of rules and regulations, it's also a union of values. And that's another thing that binds us together. And what I felt very strongly about when I was young and we entered is something that I still think is the beauty, and what also sets the EU apart from perhaps other economic corporations or regional corporations. And these are these shared values, these global values, but very much also part of the EU, the fundament of the EU, of human dignity and human rights, of freedom, equality, solidarity, and the principles of democracy and rule of law. And now I'm getting to why I think EU membership would be a good idea for Bosnia and Herzegovina. Because one of the major problems that you are well aware of is that young, educated people are leaving this country and other countries in the region. And I understand also when I talk to people, what you hear is that they move to countries in the EU because they want to have that kind of life that they can have in the EU. They, for themselves, but also for their children. And it's about good schools, it's about healthcare, but it's also about predictability and rule of law, to feel that you have individual freedom, but also a system that you can trust. And for me, this is reason enough for the politicians in this country to really work hard to fulfill the criteria to become a member of the EU, because I think right now the young population is voting with their feet, and they're leaving the country, and they are leaving to EU countries. So I think that's a strong signal. And I think the point is that whether you want to become a member or not in the end, because this will take time, and we don't know how the world will change and how things will develop, but these reforms that have to be made to become a member of the EU, I think are still worthwhile. And you have an incredible possibility right now. You have the financial and technical support of the European Union. And this, in the way that you have it, no other countries in the world have that kind of support. And that's something that you should really try to get the most out of and really benefit from. And this is, of course, because you are a potential candidate country, and hopefully soon a candidate country. But that's why I think this with potential candidate country is so important, because it actually means something. All, as you know, I mean, all countries in Europe who fulfill the criteria can become members of the EU, but there are other countries in Europe who don't have that label. They have not been given that from the European Union. Only you in the Western Balkans have the label of potential candidate countries. And that's a very, very strong message. And it also comes with a lot of support from the EU. I think that is very, very clear. And from last year, you also have a roadmap in shape of the opinion from the European Union that also says what you have to do. I mean, which are the next steps. So I think that is also something that is very beneficial for you. From this year, we also have a new methodology from the EU. The EU member states have come together around this new methodology. And we also had a decision now during COVID-19 to open accession negotiations with Albania and North Macedonia. So this is a new momentum now, and I'm very happy to see that the highest leadership in this country has now taken steps in the direction of saying that they want an accelerated accession negotiation EU integration process for the country, and I think this is good. But it will need the whole country to also. I mean, opposition and government have to work together. The parliament has to be involved, civil society, population at large. I think this is what's really needed. I mean, to have it as a national priority for everybody to work in the same direction. Then, of course, I mean, there will always be people who have a different view. I can mention that when we became members, it was I think it was 52%, if I remember correctly, that voted for. But now the support for the EU is 70% in Sweden. So it's the highest it's ever been. But still, you know, it was clear from the political parties in Sweden, they all joined. I mean, both opposition and government, everybody worked in the same direction to achieve this, because it's a lot of hard work. It was hard work for Sweden, it's hard work for anyone. But there's no way around it, and I think this is both the good news and the bad news, that there are no shortcuts to becoming a member of the EU. It's only to work hard and take all the support from the EU member states and from the EU institutions to fulfill the criteria and to. I mean, it's really pretty clear. I mean, it's called accession negotiations, but there are not really any negotiations going on. When Sweden joined, we got 2 exemptions. So it's really about checking boxes. I mean, it's really to see, have you changed this legislation? Have you adopted in this way? Are you capable of taking on what it means to be part of this huge machinery? As I described, if you agree in Brussels to roll out legislation all over the union, then every part of the union must be able to implement it. So this is one of the things I think that has been strengthened also within the EU, to not only change legislation and adopt it, but also show that you're actually able to implement it. So like I said, it's just to, I think, see the potential and see that this is a fantastic opportunity, and take all the support from the outside, because there is a lot of support, and Sweden is one of the countries that is here to support. Every year we contribute with 19 million euros to reforms that will help Bosnia and Herzegovina to eventually become a member of the EU, and we will continue to do that. But of course, we need to have good partners in the country to work with. But we will stay here, and the EU institutions will do that. So I'm still a true believer of the EU. I kept that since my student years, and I think we are much stronger together. And I really hope to see Bosnia and Herzegovina also as a part of the EU one day, not too far away. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was really amazing to hear all of these messages, especially because a few days ago we celebrated the Day of Europe, and we are still in some kind of celebration mode, still trying to mark this remarkable day, and to think more of us, let's say, to think more of us as a future member state in European Union family. As some of our previous guests already mentioned, we are actually the Europe geographically, by our mentality, by the place where we are and where we live. There is only a few, let's say, small, concrete steps that we have to take to be officially recognized as a member state. So there is nobody that can take that European mark away from us. So yeah, but for example, if we are talking about European integration, especially within this region, and if we are talking about basically Bosnia and Herzegovina here, we know that there is a lot of obstacles, there is a lot of misunderstandings on the level because of political system, institutions, political actors, parties, things like that, etc. But there are a lot of proofs as well, how hard can it sometimes be for us to have even the smallest steps towards the membership. For example, the European questionnaire, it took us almost 2 years of our life to just answer the basic questions. So that actually shows us that we do have a problem, and we do have to find a way how to deal with it. And of course, there's a lot of support, but sometimes to us as a people, it seems like maybe the politicians see that as opportunity to be, more on power, or to be, I don't know, to make some things for their own benefit, that they are not thinking at all about the well-being of the country and of the people that they are representing. But the thing that I'm interested here to more of you, especially talking about this whole situation of joining EU, is what do you think that are the main obstacles for us as a, let's say, Bosnia and Herzegovina towards joining European Union?
No, I think you touched upon that yourself right now. I think what is needed is to have much stronger structures within the country. Coordination mechanism has to be, I mean, I understand that's the idea now, to have it revived and strengthened. And like I said, I think there are good steps who have been taken recently for this, but I think that's, for the moment, some of the major obstacles to have good coordination within the country, but really also to have the will and you know, to decide that this is what we're doing now. Now we focus on everybody working together instead of fighting on things that takes away time and energy instead of focusing on this common goal.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more than that with you. I think that if we try to ask this group to represent the country, I think that we would be more able and capable of doing a lot of reforms and things than our politicians that are on such important positions right now. But hopefully there are going to be some young people that are in process of non-formal education, learning about how to become a real leader and true inspiration, how to believe in something greater than themselves and than their own interests. So thank you so much for this first part of our event. I'm going to invite some of our participants right here to take the floor and to ask some questions. I'm going to give the floor firstly to Katarina, because she asked me, so she is a bit out of time. So we're trying to respect all of our participants, and please, Katarina, feel free to ask the question if you need to go.
Thank you, Milos, and thank you, Cerebra, for hosting another coffee in Zoom. I'm really happy to see some of the young people that we work with, and also very happy, and this is just to give a glimpse to Her Excellency Ambassador, that these coffees came up from Kult's ideas of coffees during our actually sessions. And actually Milos and Milos were and are our participants. So I'm so happy that the good things that we developed with young people are taking another level in a new circumstances, such as COVID situation globally. And I will not go further because I really have to rush somewhere else. But I hope you will enjoy, as we did enjoy it in so many conversations so far. And I hope that very soon we will do fika together in Sarajevo or in Banja Luka or wherever in Bosnia. And there's groups of young people that we already asked several ambassadors, including yourself, to actually have an encounter and talk about specific subjects. But I want to say more is that I'm so happy that also coffees in Zoom with Cerebra moved forward, and this is the second one with targeting very specific topic, and I think that's very important for young people in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So my question goes right there somehow. Since even we had a chance to speak so many times with different things, but maybe not this, is what is your perception of the role of young people in European integration of Bosnia and Herzegovina? So how do you as a foreigner, I would even say in two layers, how do you as a foreigner, as a person from Sweden with this educational and professional background, see the role of young people in fighting the good battles in getting this country into EU? And then the second layer, how do you see it as an ambassador when you see what politicians or how our decision makers are taking decisions toward this? Because I mean, my perception when talking to young people is that we are very slow. It's like really, really slow. But then maybe your perception as an ambassador and also as a person from Sweden is a bit different, because you see us a bit differently from a different angle. So that's my question.
Yeah, thank you, and I'm glad to hear this is coming initially from Kult and developing. It's fantastic. That's the way we want to see things happening. And I think perhaps that also answers your first question about the role of youth. I think this is exactly one role, to keep an open mind, to have discussions, to engage as many young people as possible. In general, in countries, young people are more positive when it comes to the EU, and older people a little bit more negative. So I think this is an important role to keep that voice, to keep discussions with each other, but also make that voice heard to politicians in different ways. I mean, through youth organizations, journalism, any way you can come up with. I think that's very important. In terms of how quick or slow things are going, you heard me. I started back in 2000, and that was not even the beginning, really. It's slow. I think that's the short answer. As I said, I worked with the region for such a long time, so this is not specific only for Bosnia and Herzegovina, but I think a lot of time is being lost in this region on blaming the EU and saying, for a while, and of course I understand the feelings when there was no decision to start negotiations with Albania and North Macedonia, but few times in life, that's how you act. I mean, if you want something, you work hard to get it. You don't wait and sit to be given that, and you don't complain and say it's not fair, because life is not fair, as we all know. So the only thing you can do is to work hard and make sure that you have done your part of the deal, and then you can start complaining about the other party. But I think that's my view, and I think that's where the focus should be, instead of looking for scapegoats, and just see what can I do to make sure that this happens, to speed up the process. So I hope this is what we now will see in front of us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Katarina. As Katarina mentioned, yes, this is sort of some kind of follow-up after the cult programs where we participated and still participating in. And I want to say that we are trying to learn from the best, because we want to become the best and to enjoy in the company of the best actors of the NGO sector in this country, especially because we want to believe that if we are together and if our voice is being heard together, that we can accomplish much, much more than if we are separated and on our own. So thank you so much. Appreciate your time here and your question, as well as yes, we mentioned that this is a concrete, let's say, topic discussing here about European integrations of our country, and maybe to mix it up a bit more with some kind of Swedish recipe, especially because these days there's a lot of things going on and talking about, the Swedish recipe of dealing with Corona. So what would be the perfect Swedish recipe of Bosnia and Herzegovina joining EU, especially with taking the responsible role of not only NGOs but civil sector and civil society in this process?
I think it will be very important for the whole country to work together, and of course this is a two-way street. I hope the politicians will listen to civil society and listen to young people, but civil society and young people in general should also make their voice heard and demand this, to say that you want to be part of the process. So I think that's the recipe, and that would also be, I think, a Swedish recipe to try to have civil society as much involved as possible to make whatever you do strong and solid, so you have the population behind you when you move ahead with, because it will be hard. I want to underline that. I mean, some of these reforms will in the short run not benefit everybody. Because there will have to be reforms, for example, of the public sector, that will be hard, but in the long run it will be much better for everybody. So this is why it requires a lot of political will and courage to do this kind of reforms. But then you need support from the population who understands this, that this is, you know, for the greater good in the long term.
Yes, exactly. Let me just one more time ask to other participants as well to use this amazing chance and opportunity. And if you have some questions, please feel free to type them in and to ask them on our Zoom group chat. So after that, you will be available to ask them by yourself. I was, let's say, pretty much amazed back at the December of 2018 when I visited first time in my life Sweden, Stockholm and Malmö in that time of year, and I was, let's say, hoping that there's going to be more winter than we do have here, but I was wrong somehow. And after that, we also used the chance and opportunity to cross the sea from Malmö to Copenhagen, and I was really, let's say, confused with the prices, because I was thinking that Sweden is expensive, and then I visited Denmark, and I got a chance to see what does the meaning of the word expensive means actually. Also, we do have a lot of connections. I was in that position to go there and visit your country, for example, regarding these connection with the flights that we have from the airport nearby of my house, because I'm officially originally from Laktaši, but you know, time to time I like to say that I'm from Banja Luka as well. So we had that flight connection from Laktaši, Banja Luka airport, whatever you say. Some of us would say Mahovljani airport here, to Stockholm, Skavsta, and I saw a lot of people going there using the opportunity of the flight connection that we have from this area. So it showed me one more time how connected we are actually, that there is a lot of our people working there, living there, and using actually that connection of the flights on the most on that concrete way and example. So if we are talking about, let's say, that kind of connections, what do you say? What is your experience of having our people in your country? Are we different there than we are here?
Well, it's hard to say, but what I can say is that so there are 80,000 people living in Sweden, or either born in Bosnia and Herzegovina or born to two parents from Bosnia and Herzegovina. So, you know, beyond that, of course, there are even more people with maybe a parent from somewhere else, or who are born in Bosnia and Herzegovina, so in Sweden. But as a group, which is, you know, that's what I'm saying, it's a really big group of people. And this is not only an impression, these are really, like, you know, proper research that has been done. As a group, people from Bosnia and Herzegovina are the most successfully integrated group of foreigners in Sweden. And I think this was an Al Jazeera interview that I saw once about this, interviewing people. And then this man he was a successful businessman in Sweden. He said that it's so easy here to make a business, and, you know, the state helps you and you get loans and everything is very clear. And I can tell you that most people who have never lived anywhere else than in Sweden would complain about how difficult it is to start a business in Sweden. So I think that gives perhaps a hint of, you know, I think there are a lot of, like, strong people with a lot of drive in this country, and when they're confronted with a clear system that is supportive, they become extremely successful.
Thank you so much. Speaking of the support that we can actually see here in our country, I would maybe like I think that this will be also useful for the group to hear what are other examples, let's say, of a concrete support that you're investing, let's say, in our country. We can talk mainly about, let's say, NGOs, civil sector, civil society, and youth here. We do know that you have a lot of opportunities and chances for NGOs to apply and to reach their potential and goals. We are also looking for such kind of cooperation here, basically on the ground, on the field. For example, I would just mention that one of our previous guests said, like, we are already part of European Union and we do invest in your country through funds of European Union. And I do know that Sweden does that same thing as well. But beside that, Sweden is investing a lot more independently by itself. So maybe to hear something more about other ways of supporting here the domestic people of this country.
Yes, so we support, we have a regional strategy, and the goal is, like I said, to support reforms and projects that help the country to move closer to the EU. And we do this both when it comes to democracy and rule of law and economic development, but also environment and climate. And actually right now, environment and climate is our biggest portfolio in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So we do a lot there. Maybe you have seen we are engaged when it comes to the air pollution, to try to work together with the institutions here to make the air better. And we also work. It's a project that's co-financed between us and local authorities. So it can be municipalities, or it can be cantons, or other parts of the country. And we do what's called energy efficiency of public buildings. And I think this is a typical example where you both, because this is actually a requirement. I mean, talking about all these things you have to do to become a member of the EU, to have a certain level of energy efficiency of public buildings is actually a requirement to become a member of the EU. So we do this together with the local authorities, but it also benefits to a better environment and better air, because the buildings need less heating, and they also use clean heating, green heating as we would like to call it. So that's one example of things we're doing. So it's a combination. We also work together with both the Council of Ministers, the Federation government, and the government in Republika Srpska and in the Brčko district to have one environment strategy for the whole country. So we'll have 4 different sections for these 4 different layers of the parts of the country, but it will be a joint document and one strategy. And then, so these are the kind of things also that we support, to then bring in expertise, to work with the different governments to adopt this kind of plan. And of course, this is also hugely important to get more support also from the EU, from the pre-accession funds, to work on environmental issues. So we work pretty broad in these areas. We work both on legislation, but also on very concrete projects. So I think that gives one idea of what we do in the area of environment.
Thank you so much for the answer. I can see the raised hand from Saida, but I will just ask you again to type the question in the Zoom group chat before you get the chance to ask the question. Thank you so much. In the meantime, I have the question from the guy that has the same name as me. Obviously, we have 3 Miloshes in this group, which is amazing here. I always love to see people that has the same name as me. So please, Miloš, feel free to ask your questions.
Hello. Greetings.
Hello.
First, I want to introduce myself. I'm Miloš. I studied law here in Banja Luka. And I want to say hello to everyone, and especially to you. I would like to ask you 2 questions. Mm-hmm. First is, in your opinion, do people here believe in European Union? And
you want me to, sorry, should I answer that first, or you want to ask the other questions?
okay, and the second question is, I remember my professor said that like 6 or 7 years ago, I don't remember exactly. He said something like that European Union is the ship who is going to sink, and we are the last mouse who wants to hop in. Is there is there any comment about that? And especially about today, after Corona crisis and everything, does the European Union has the future?
Yes, well, in terms of if people here believe in the EU, you're probably better at answering that question than I am. No, I think there is a lot of mistrust in this region when it comes to the EU. I think many people want to become members of the EU, but they are not sure if the EU want the countries in the region to become members. But I think this is something we have to work on together to overcome. And this is why I think this is why I want to emphasize, I mean, as I did in my introduction, that I mean, don't forget what the EU is doing for this region. I mean, it's something that we do nowhere else in the world. And the EU has cooperation with almost all countries in the whole world. And the EU is spending a lot of money on both humanitarian aid, but also what we call development cooperation all over the world. And we also have very strong trade relations with other countries. But there are no countries in the world that we have this kind of strategic commitment to as to the Western Balkans. And the pre-accession funds is something that you don't see anywhere else. So this is why, as I said, both the financial and the technical assistance that is available to you is not available to anyone else. So I think this is really something we have to keep on repeating for people to gain a little bit more trust, but then also going back to, don't put your faith in somebody else's hands. I mean, if you want to believe, you know, believe and work hard. Don't, like, maybe, I don't know if the EU wants me or not, so I don't know, maybe it's not worth making the reforms. I mean, if you want it, go for it. And when you're ready, then you can start doubting the EU. But I don't stop yourself, you know, from doing what you have to do with doubting the EU. So that would be my my answer. And about the sinking ship, I've never heard. That was pretty dramatic. No, as I said, I am really a believer. I think also this crisis has shown that the EU is a very strong union. First, a lot of countries made the quick decisions on their own because everybody wanted to save their own population. But very, very quickly, I would say, the European Commission took initiative, and we should also remember that actually when it comes to healthcare, that is something that is not, as we say, an EU competence. That is actually something that the member states decide on. And the same when it comes to this kind of crisis management. And so I think the European Union very quickly took action, and the member states listened and came together and started making decisions about opening up borders again, about joint procurement, which also then opened up to the Western Balkans joining this joint procurement of medical equipment. So I think the EU is strong, and we have shown that again. I mean, we managed through the financial crisis, we managed through the situation with a lot of migrants coming into the union, which was difficult because we have different policies. And now we've also shown that we have managed to handle this kind of crisis. So, and unfortunately, I mean, we are really one of the countries who are extremely sad to see the United Kingdom leaving, because we have also always been very close and working closely with each other. But you see, with Brexit, there's also been an increased support in Sweden, for example, and also in other countries in the EU for the European Union, because I think a lot of countries have realized all these things that we don't think about in our daily lives, all the benefits that we have from the EU has been very clear when you see how hard it is for a country to leave, because we're almost like one country. You know, we have we keep our culture, our distinct features, but in many ways, the European Union functions as one giant country. So to leave is not that easy. And it also shows how strong the Union is. So no, I don't think it's a sinking ship.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I wanted to hear also this opinion and to hear this question, because for sure you mentioned the Brexit. Since the Brexit began, on some kind, we were facing with a lot of Euroscepticism all across the European Union, not only within the third countries or the countries of the third world, especially here. I would just remind that there are, I think, on a yearly basis, surveys and public opinion questionnaires of direction of European integrations in Bosnia and Herzegovina, saying exact percentage of European integration support in this country. And I think for the last period, it was something around 60 to 65% for European Union membership of this country. If you look the data like on the level of entities, there is a lack of support towards European integration in Republic of Srpska than in Federation, but it is still above 50%. That is kind of the question, maybe on the answers on the first question, because you asked, do we actually believe in European Union and this kind of integration? So the surveys and the questionnaires shows us that there is still a huge support in the population about this question. So thank you so much for these questions and answers. I'm going to let Saida now to jump in the conversation with her amazing question that I also look forward to hear the answer on.
Okay, thank you very much, respected Johanna. In 2016, I was an exchange student in Finland as Erasmus Plus project. And that was very beneficial for me, especially because of my English language as well. And I saw in Finland that the education system has a really good quality, especially for the young children. So I think also that the Sweden and Norway, Denmark, and others Scandinavian countries has really a good education system. Respected Johanna, my question is, can you please give us some advices or something that we can implement in our education, Bosnian and Herzegovinian system that can be better? Do you have maybe some advices or something like that? Thank you.
I have to be a bit humble here. I think I'm really not an expert on on the education system in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And because it's also an area where Sweden is not being active. But what I can say is that I think a bit of the strength in the education systems in the Nordic countries is that you teach the children to be critical. And this is really to question everything. I mean, to not believe authority, to question your teacher, question your parents. It can be very annoying, but it's a good thing to have with you in life. That you always have to fact check. And I think this is, I mean, this day and age with so much disinformation and deliberate attempts to mislead people, I think this is it's something good. So I think that's one of the issues that are strong, that you give children also the sense that they are important as individuals, but also that they have to work together with others to achieve results. So I think those are some of the I think special features of education in the Nordic countries. I don't know if you agree from what you saw.
Yes, I agree. Thank you very much. This is very important for me, and I was also with one of my friends to done some research about that. That what is something that the Nordic countries has. They really have really good quality. So maybe we should take some advices and implement in our education system. Thank you very much for your answer.
Thank you.
Some would maybe say that we should all move there, maybe to live in Sweden, Finland, Norway, or Denmark, or somewhere else than here. But no, this is our country, and we have to do our best to make it better and to live on the way that we want.
I can tell you have plenty of things in your country that people envy in Sweden. So.
Yeah, exactly. we should be just more. We have to be more interested about making a perfect Bosnian and Herzegovinian recipe for ourselves. Actually, great. We're going to move on. Time is moving fast, so after this question, we are going to be slowly closing today's event and session. And I'm going to invite my friend Bojana. It is also a great pleasure of having a person from a local authority level actor and somebody that is involved with the job of taking care of city of mayor, municipality mayor office. Bojana is chief of staff. Great to have you, Bojana, here, and please feel free to ask your question.
Hello, it's a really great opportunity to have this possibility to speak with ambassador, but also with all the young people. I will present myself. I'm Johanna and I'm coming from Aktaši municipality. I'm chief of mayor's cabinet, but also I'm working for 10 years in local economic department. So I know a little bit about EU accession, and it was my master thesis about socioeconomic cohesion in the European Union. And also I would like to take this opportunity to thank you and your country for all the support you gave to our municipality and for our citizens. We had opportunity to be part of different projects in Bosnia and Herzegovina and to get your support. What is the most important from my point of view, in the last 3 years maybe, we were part of a project MZ, Mjesne Zajednice. It was done with your support, and there we saw how important is involvement of citizens in taking decisions about the project that we are implementing, and how with their support things are going easier, and then they understand how sometimes difficult it is to take a decision of which project we are going to choose and what are we going to finance, because we can't resolve all the problems. So the thing is that also I think you saw that it is very important to have local authorities on your side, and the things are actually going on local level. And we know about the problems and needs of our citizens, so we find more and struggle with the problems, and we are going to always trying to find solutions for their problems. So I would like to ask you, how would you describe the role of local authorities in EU accession and also in those different reforms that need to be done in Bosnia and Herzegovina? Because sometimes I have impression that we have more willingness to do changes and reforms than higher level of authorities. So what is your opinion about that? Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's a good question, and I think it's a bit related to the question about civil society, right? Because I mean, I think to be successful in this kind of transforming project for the whole country, then of course you need all levels. You need to have the population, as you say yourself. I mean, you see this on local level, how important it is to bring in the population and civil society. So I think a lot of the decisions that, a lot of the legislation that will have to be changed to become member of the EU will be implemented at local level. So of course you are crucial. So I really think you should try to be as much involved as possible to make sure to influence, because it's that relationship between you and levels at higher level that you talk about when you have the citizens with you. because then you also have a greater understanding of the sacrifices that have to be made and why certain choices are being made at a certain point. So I would really encourage you to try to create a role for the municipalities in this process. And thank you for the kind words about our project, Местная Science. It's very nice to hear.
Perfect. Thank you so much, both for the question and the answer. As I mentioned before, unfortunately, we're a bit out of time at this point, but for sure, as we previously, before the official beginning of this event, we invited Excellency Ambassador to visit us in the next occasion in Banja Luka, and hopefully we are going to make some more of these kind of events in person, and we are going to have a strong connection and cooperation sometimes in the future to do some amazing initiatives and things. The way I like to say it here on these events is that we as young people, we do really have a lot of positive ideas, and we are thinking on a daily basis a lot about how can we improve personally, but also how can we influence on the positive changes in our own communities. So any kind of help and connection that we can establish is more than valuable. So we do really looking forward to every next opportunity of cooperating more and dealing more together in the future. On this point, I'm going to give the floor to my friend. He also has the same name as me. He's Miloš, and he's president of governing board of our organization, Cerebra from Banja Luka, and he's in charge of funny part of these events with some non-formal questions, I would say that way, but sometimes he can be more serious and he can have some more serious question than we do have. I don't know what is he going to ask now. Please do surprise me here, and we will also going to close the event for today and to move on. Yes. Okay, Miloš.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, in front of Cerebra, I would like to thank you, Your Excellency, for accepting this invitation and to be with us and having this great conversation. I have several questions, but some of them are already have been asked by other participants, and because of time, I will have asked 2 questions, and it's going to be very serious, Miloš. Okay, as we know, your country is one of our biggest donor, and in our country, and you are investing a lot in private sector, in civil sector, in public sector, and also in youth sector. Could you tell us on which cooperation you are the most proud, like cooperating with youth sector, with public sector, or with private sector? And maybe this question is not so weird, maybe not so funny, but I would like to know, in your opinion, don't feel pressure, but when we can expect to join you, like in 5 years, in 10 years, just your free judgment. Thank you.
So I will start with the last question. It's really up to you, but it will take time. It will not be. I think 5 years is optimistic, but it's really up to you. And I think this is the important point. It will require a lot of hard work, and there are no shortcuts, like I said. So, and this is another, we don't know. We cannot look into the future. Nobody predicted COVID-19. So anything can happen. And the only thing we are certain of is here, now, and today. And the only thing we can do is every day to try to do to what we can to get to our goal, but then it's not meaningful to think about how long it will take. But there's a lot of support now, and there's momentum, I think, also in the country. So I hope it will be quick. For the second question, that was your first question. I'm proud of everything we do, and I can say that in all honesty. I think we have a fantastic team in the embassy, and we do a lot of good things. But what has made me maybe the happiest are all these projects that we have with young people, people working on innovations, on IT, all these things that you feel there's a lot of energy and drive, and that gives me so much hope for this country. So those are my favorite projects, but I'm proud of all our projects.
Thank you very much. I expected this answer. And at the end, could you, I don't know, maybe say some message to young people in our country, in Bosnia and Herzegovina?
I think the message to young people here is the same message as everywhere. These times are not easy. They were not easy before COVID-19. We live in uncertain times, and all we can do is to try to every day do our best to be someone that we can be proud of when we look back at what we have done. So I think this is the message for me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think this was the best way to close this event. Once again, in behalf of all of us from Cerebra NGO team from Banja Luka, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for this amazing chance and opportunity to speak and to have the space for open discussion on even in this, as you mentioned, uncertain times, at least in a virtual life. Hopefully, as I mentioned, we are going to have some amazing chance and opportunity again as well in person, in live, to do more, to be as well in touch. In any case, if you do have anything that you would like to address on a local level, you have a partner and a strong friend in our organization here in Banja Luka, and feel free to reach us out and to contact us at any time, so we can do more together. Thank you so much in behalf, actually, from all of us here in this conversation. I'm really happy that some other people will have chance to see and to hear all of these messages even online on our YouTube channel. I also would like to invite you all to keep following us. There is some more things that we are going to announce and publish in the following days. Please be in touch with us on social networks, Cerebra NGO accounts on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube, of course, as well as on our website. In case there is anything of the information regarding young people and youth population in this country that you want to publish out loud and on some of the platforms, we are thrilled to say that we do have our online platform that is called Mladi BiH, so Youth Banja Luka, mladibih.com. It is a first youth info portal of the city of Banja Luka, supported by the city mayor office, and we are using it to promote information for young people more. So please, if you have anything that you want to share with the youth from Banja Luka, this region or this country, feel free to send that, and we'll be happy to announce that information and to share it out with in the public. Ambassador, it was really an honor being the moderator of this conversation for me. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much. It was really my pleasure to be with you. So thank you for organizing this opportunity.
Thanks a lot. I hope you all will enjoy in the rest of your day. It's a rainy bit here in my place, but hopefully there's going to be some nice weather in the following days. So thank you again. Enjoy your day, and let's stay in touch and see you soon.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Looking forward to seeing you soon. Bye in real life. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.